Our second joint that we have to pay the most attention to, besides the hip, is the shoulder. Okay. Shoulder's super complex, annoyingly so. And it was originally designed for us to swing between trees. So throwing people is a bit of an adjustment for the joint. When we look at the shoulder, maybe turn around. Okay. We have multiple parts of the shoulder, multiple moving parts. We have the scapula on the back of the shoulder, which is its own joint. In fact, oftentimes we look to stack this in judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, any grappling sport, perpendicular to the angle of the arm so that we can generate force. We call it packing the shoulder. This gives us strength and power, but it puts a lot of stress and force on the posterior capsule of the shoulder. A lot of times you'll get pain on the front if you use that too much, specifically, let's say you're locking out a lefty. The clavicle on the top of the shoulder and the AC joint, again, incredibly problematic. If you have never had a stinger or an AC joint sprain, this can be really, really painful, annoying, last for a long time, and almost always is easily diagnosable by pain right here and closing joint, right? Closing joint, bone impingement. You got to get some anti-inflammatories. You got to find a PT that's good. Okay, and then we have, if you turn around, sternum maneuver joint, right through here, and going into the shoulder. The top rib, well, the clavicle kind of acts as a rib here, but each rib in the thoracic cage has 6 different articulating joints. So if you think of the mess that we're dealing with here and the amount of movement and the amount of room for failure, especially if we're smashing into the mat consistently, there's a lot on the shoulder. The last, and the one that we're going to focus on the most, is the glenohumeral joint. It's the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. So assuming everything else is functioning pretty well, very easy to check internal and external rotation of the shoulder. We don't have to do weird movements on the ground. We just reach behind our head as far as we can with one hand. Okay. So our external rotation is the tightness of the joint, and then we reach behind the back as far as we can underneath. And this is the internal rotation of the joint. There's something you want to be really aware of here, though. If he reaches behind the back, and we have trouble doing it, and the shoulder blade flares all the way forward, that's a little bit sticky. And another way, if the shoulder drives all the way forward as he reaches behind his back, and the shoulder blade again drives all the way forward as well, we're going to have some problems with the front of the joint. Okay? And this is judoka in general. You'll find this in wrestlers' necks. The shoulder is going to be the main point of contention 99.9% of the time. You're lifting people with it. You're not in a good, favorable position to throw, and you force yourself to throw. So if you look at this from a mechanical standpoint, the scapula is where the scapula is on the ribs, the thoracic cage, is where your arm is anchored to your body, literally. So if that is not in a favorable place to withstand force, you're going to be using mostly this big guy right here, the deltoid, and your lat to compensate for a lack of stability. This is usually brought out by tons of pain right in the front of the shoulder, pain in the pec major and pec minor. You can get shooting pain down the bicep, tightness in the tricep, right? The whole thing is just kind of out of whack. And so it's pretty easy to tell, this one. And most judo players will have it. We call it Seo shoulder for fun. Front of the shoulder, if I dig in here, tendon, painful tendon. Okay? If that's the case, and this will be the case with 99% of judoka, we have to start going through the exercises that we need to get that shoulder blade back in position. 99% of working with the shoulder is getting the shoulder blade to approximate itself correctly with the thoracic spine and the ribs.